Jay Dobbins, a federal agent, lived as one of them for 2 years, posing as a gun runner, witnessing their darkest secrets, and surviving by sheer instinct. This is the untold story of how one man infiltrated the Hells Angels, risking everything to bring them down from the inside. J. Anthony Jaybird Dobbins is a name that strikes intrigue, respect, and awe in the world of law enforcement. Born on July 24, 1961, Dobbins grew up in Tucson, Arizona, after his family moved from Hammond, Indiana, in search of better opportunities. Dobbins' early life in Tucson was marked by athletic success, particularly in football. As a standout athlete at Saguaro High School, he earned a football scholarship to the Unity University of Arkansas in 1980. Later, he transferred to the University of Arizona, where he excelled as a wide receiver, even being considered an All-American candidate. However, Dobbins' career trajectory took a sharp turn from football fields to the criminal underworld.
That wasn't going to happen, okay? And I had to figure it out, like a lot of young people.
In 1987, he joined the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, beginning a remarkable 27-year career in law enforcement. His journey, though decorated with success, was punctuated by life-threatening experiences that tested his resolve, courage, and commitment to justice. One of the earliest and most harrowing moments of his career came just days after he began working as an ATF special agent. Jaybird Dobbins, retired undercover ATF agent, best known for infiltrating the Hells Angels, on November 19, 1987, while serving an arrest warrant on a convicted felon named Brent Provostgaard. Dobbins found himself taken hostage at gunpoint in a tense standoff near Tucson Airport. Provostgaard forced Dobbins into a car, demanding he drive away. Faced with what seemed like certain death, Dobbins made a split-second decision to drop the keys, prompting Provostgaard to fire a .38 caliber bullet that struck Dobbins in the lung. The other agents opened fire, killing the gunman, while Dobbins lay bleeding. His career in law enforcement barely started. He later recounted, "I got shot before I even got my first paycheck." Despite this near-fatal incident, Dobbins pressed on with his career, diving deep into some of the most dangerous undercover operations in ATF history. Over the years, he took part in more than 500 undercover operations, often risking his life to take down violent criminals. However, his most famous and dangerous mission was infiltrating the notorious Hells Angels motorcycle club. During Operation Black Biscuit, Dobbins and a team of ATF agents successfully penetrated the Hells Angels, a biker gang designated by the Department of Justice as an outlaw motorcycle gang. During the infiltration, Dobbins witnessed firsthand the gang's criminal activities. Remember, J. Dobbins infiltrated the Hells Angels motorcycle gang, including drug trafficking, arms deals, and violent crimes. The operation's success relied heavily on Dobbins' ability to balance his role as a federal agent with the dangerous persona he had adopted as a criminal insider.
I had been left out in the cold. I had been abandoned as a 25-year federal agent. Undercover work involves assuming a false identity, which often conflicts with an agent's values and requires isolation from family and colleagues. For Dobbins, this meant constant fear of discovery, while maintaining a lifestyle far from his own beliefs. The mental strain of pretending to be someone else for such a long time was nearly unbearable. Dobbins frequently turned to his ATF handler, Biz, to ensure he maintained his mental clarity. Trying to keep your brain spinning 2 or 3 conversations ahead of time for 8 hours at a time, you are physically, mentally, emotionally ripped to do that day after day, and month after month is nearly impossible, he reflected on his grueling experience. Despite developing surface-level friendships with some of the Hells Angels, Dobbins despised them. He viewed them as degenerate misfits and was determined to bring them to justice. However, his contempt for their criminal behavior was carefully hidden to maintain his cover. Among the hardest parts of Dobbins' mission was witnessing rampant abuse within the gang. He protected his undercover partner, McGuire, from unwanted advances, but was helpless when it came to the bikers' girlfriends and wives, who were often subjected to verbal, physical, and sexual abuse. These women, known as biker girls, were described by Dobbins as having low self-esteem and willing to endure any mistreatment for the status of being associated with the gang.
The abuse was not limited to the women. Dobbins witnessed brutal violence toward children. In one instance, he watched as a Hell's Angel mercilessly beat his 11-year-old son for crying after being squirted with water by other children. Bound by the demands of his undercover role, Dobbins could not intervene without risking exposure. These moments weighed heavily on him. J. Dobbins also put his life on the line as an undercover agent. Dedicated, and he later admitted that his inability to stop such cruelty haunted him. Undercover work also took a toll on Dobbins' mental and physical health. He began drinking and smoking heavily to cope with the constant stress of his double life. In the poor neighborhood where he was embedded, local children idolized him as a successful criminal. Dobbins tried to steer them away from the outlaw biker lifestyle, urging them to focus on education. Sadly, many of the children ignored his advice, looking up to him for all the wrong reasons. The pressure of undercover life strained Dobbins' family relationships as well. His children resented his prolonged absences, and Dobbins admitted that he failed to be there for them when they needed him most. Under the cover of doing debt collection work, he would occasionally visit his family, but the sporadic visits did little to bridge the emotional distance that had grown between them. Adding to the difficulty of his mission was the animosity Dobbins faced from both the gang and its supporters. Once his cover was blown, Dobbins described the experience as becoming a speed bump, a target for hatred from all sides. The Hells Angels, furious at being deceived, and their supporters, who viewed Dobbins as a traitor, turned their anger toward him. Even after the operation ended, Dobbins was met with threats and retaliation attempts. This left him constantly looking over his shoulder, knowing that the danger did not disappear just because the operation had concluded. Dobbins' relationship with his superiors also became strained. He often clashed with his boss, Slatala, who reminded him that Dobbins was only aware of a fraction of the entire operation. Slatala controlled the broader investigation, while Dobbins had to focus on staying alive in his day-to-day encounters with the gang. For Dobbins, the stakes were clear. Any mistake could mean death. He famously told Slatala, "If you make a mistake, you can go back and rewrite a report and fix something. If I make a mistake, I'm going to get hit on the back of my head with a pipe." But how did Dobbins succeed in infiltrating the infamous biker gang?
Operation Black Biscuit was a daring undercover operation initiated in September 2001 by the ATF to infiltrate the notorious Hells Angels motorcycle gang in Arizona. The operation began when Rudy Kramer, a member of the Solo Angeles Motorcycle Club, agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency after being arrested on weapons charges. Kramer, who had connections to the Solo Angeles Club in Tijuana, Mexico, a nobody club in Tijuana, Mexico, was in a prime position to infiltrate the Hells Angels and other outlaw motorcycle gangs. His collaboration would prove vital to the operation's success. The ATF saw an opportunity to exploit Kramer's established connections, particularly in the methamphetamine and firearms trade, and use him to gain deeper access to the Hells Angels. Kramer began dealing drugs and smuggling weapons, fabricating a story that he was arming the Solo Angeles in Mexico to combat a Mongols chapter there. This gave him credibility within the Hells Angels and other criminal circles. Alongside Kramer, a team of undercover ATF agents infiltrated the gang. Among these agents was J. Dobbins, who assumed the alias J. Davis to run side by side with the Hells Angels in Arizona, though the gang members knew him as Jaybird. Dobbins portrayed himself as a gun runner and debt collector, working to gain the trust of key Hells Angels figures. An invitation to the clubhouse of a motorcycle gang is far more than a polite gesture. It's a declaration of intentions, a negotiation of power, and a proving ground for Dobbins. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The call to the Mesa Clubhouse was not a mere invitation, but an ultimatum, a direct order from the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. They had grown wary of his activities within their territory, debt collections and gun running, and they wanted a face-to-face discussion about his future dealings. The Hells Angels are known for their secretive and exclusionary nature. No, he just wrote his tickets and let us go. Their clubhouse is more than just a gathering place. It's a fortress designed to keep outsiders and even some members of rival gangs at bay. For many, the opportunity to step inside is as rare as it is coveted. Yet, for Dobbins, this was not an honor, but a necessity. He had to prove his worth and get the club's sanction if he wanted to continue his business activities under their watchful eyes. As Dobbins approached the Mesa clubhouse, he was met with an intimidating reception. The street outside was guarded by several Hells Angels members, some visibly armed with guns and baseball bats. In Arizona, where open carry laws allow for firearms to be displayed openly, Dobbins himself was armed. His weapons were on full display, a symbol of his readiness and resilience. The situation took a tense turn when security members of the Hells Angels informed him that guns were not permitted inside the clubhouse. Dobbins, however, was firm in his stance. He refused to disarm, stating that he never took off his guns for anyone, not even the Hells Angels. His refusal was a statement of defiance and self-preservation, making it clear that he wasn't about to let anyone dictate his actions or compromise his safety. The standoff reached a critical point when one of the club's shot callers, a high-ranking member, intervened with calm authority. He placed an arm around Dobbins' shoulder and said, "Look, I make the rules and you can come in with your guns on." This gesture was more than just a concession. It was a subtle acknowledgement of Dobbins' standing and a sign of respect from this initial interaction. From this initial interaction, Dobbins felt a sense of triumph. The fact that a Hells Angels shot caller had made an exception for him suggested that he was already making headway in the precarious world of motorcycle gangs. In the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, titles and positions carry significant weight. The club is organized with a president, a vice president, and a warlord who oversees weapons and defense. At the time of Dobbins' visit, the Mesa chapter was led by Bad Bob Johnston, a feared and respected figure within the club. Gaining Johnston's trust was crucial, as it would extend to other members and potentially open doors for further interactions. The path to becoming a full-patch member of the Hells Angels is not an easy one. It starts with being an associate, someone who is simply around the gang and builds relationships over time. The next stage involves prospecting, where one proves their loyalty and capability. Only after these steps might a member be considered for full patch status, signifying their full integration and acceptance within the club. In the Hells Angels, the patches and cuts, their vests, are more than just gear. They signify rank and identity within the club. When Dobbins was a hang-around for the Skull Valley chapter in Arizona, he wore a plain black cut with only Skull Valley on the front. As a prospect, he earned the Arizona Bottom Rocker, which is a curved patch indicating his in-training status. Full members sport the Top Rocker, Hells Angels, and the Central Death Head patch. Achieving full membership requires unanimous approval from the charter, with prospects awaiting their turn as long as needed.